Is the audio okay? Are you able to listen to us? Okay.
So we'll make a date for something. So, read the last few verses of chapter 14.
दुर्लभो हुई जन्मो न सो सब्बस जायति पुरुषाजन्य न सो सब्बस जायति यत् सो जायति धीरो तन्कुलं सुखमेधति।
दुर्लभो पुरुषाजन्यो, दुर्लभ है ऐसा पुरुष का उत्पन्न होना। नसो सर्वत्र जाए, ऐसा आदमी हर जगह सर्वत्र नहीं पैदा होता। कौन आदमी? यथा सो जायति धीरो, पुरुष जन्म जो जानने वाला पुरुष, नोबल पुरुष, नोबल पर्सन is hard to find and he is not born everywhere. Yatha so jayati dhiro, wherever that wise one is born, tam kulam sukham edati, that family has happiness and prosperity. Story is more incidents. Once the Buddha must have mentioned that there is about the breed, that thoroughbred elephants are born among this breed and thoroughbred horses among that breed. So when Adhananda was thinking that the Buddha said nothing about thoroughbred people where they are born. So he must have asked him. And then Buddha replied that they are not born in any particular family, but wherever they are born, that family is very lucky. That is his story. Instance related to this verse.
सुखो बुद्धानमुत्पादो सुखा सद्धम्मदेशना सुखा संघस्य सामग्री समग्गानं तपोसुखो.
This is quite often quoted. Sukho buddhanam utpado. There is, इसमें बुद्ध के उत्पन्न होने में सुख है, बेसिकली हिंदी में स्ट्रेट हो जाता है. सुखा सद्धम्म देशना, शुद्ध धर्म की देशना जो वो सुख देती है. सुखा संघस्य सामग्री, जो संघ है, जो for the monks it is obviously the sangha of the monks, and for others also the family of meditators, you can say. संघर्ष सामग्री कॉन्कॉर्ड हो, उसमें हारमोनी हो, समग्रता हो. समग्गानं तपोसुखो, and when people in concord they meditate together, that gives happiness. So the birth of the awakened ones gives happiness, the reaching of the true Dhamma gives happiness, concord of the Sangha gives happiness. The people who are in Concord, when they meditate, induce happiness. The instance associated with that is about some monks discussing what is true happiness and then asking Buddha about it. And then Buddha gives this answer regarding true happiness. That these are the things which really lead to true happiness for a monk or for a sangha. Next two verses have one instance associated, so we can read them together. Actually, they form a twin verse because their sentence does not get completed in one verse. So Deepak has to read both.
पुजारहे पूजयतो बुद्धे यदि वा
सावके
अपन्यच्च समतिकन्ते तिणासु कपि परिदेवे ते तदिसे पूजयतु निबहुते अकृतोभे न सकाका पुण्यच्च सदा संखातु इमे तमपि केंचे
पूजारहे पूजयतो बुद्धे यदि वा सावके पापंच समतिक्कन्ते चिन्न शोक परिदेवे. In some it is written papancha, in some it is papancha. Actually both have meaning of the same kind here. In English also it is papancha. But the English translation says papancha. Te tadise pujayato nibbute akute bhaye न सका पुण्यम संखातम इमेतम अपिकेनचे. पूजा अर्ह जो पूजा के वर्दी हैं, पूजय तो those who pay respects to him. बुद्धे यदि वा सावके, whether it is the awakened one or his disciples. पपंच समतिक्कन्ते, पपंच का मतलब है संसार का प्रपंच. So पाप का मतलब हो, अगर पाप है तो मतलब evils. They go beyond the prapanch, tina soka parideve, having overcome grief and sorrow. Te tadise pujayato nibbute akute bhe, those who pay respect to such people who are nibbute, nivan ko baat kiya, emancipated, and akuto bhe, who are fearless, bhay nahi hai. Nasakka punyam aksankhatam. Yes, possible. It is not possible to measure the punya, the quantity of merit they achieve in this process. Himetang apikeneche, by anybody. So it is saying those who pay respect to such emancipated and fearless people, their merit cannot be measured by anyone. Meaning there is a very large merit is there. There is a small instance story associated with it. Buddha was once walking with many monks, and when he came to a field, there was a big Brahmanic shrine. So a Brahmana was plowing the field, and then the Brahmana came to Buddha. But seeing the shrine, he paid respect to the shrine and not to the Buddha. So Buddha praised him for his deed. It's good, this is what you did. And then told him, but there are people and objects who are even more worthy of that. Then he gave him this explanation, these verses, that there are 4 classes of people who are worthy of such a stupa. The fully awakened Buddha, the Pachek Buddha, the disciples who have reached awakenment, and of course the Chakravarti. That has been the tradition. Chakravarti Sangha. So Buddha then told him that there could be 3 types of stupas. Stupas which have relics of such people, or figures, or statues, or the personal effects of such emancipated people, which are worthy of veneration. So, and then Buddha, by his psychic powers, he created a golden stupa there, so that he could see it. And that remained there for 7 days. Many people came to pay respects, and then it just disappeared. And then story says the stones took over the rector in its place. And just by listening to it, the Brahmanas became enlightened.
So another interestingly, Brahman was plowing a field.
Yes.
So those days, Brahman too.
No, they must be from the Brahmanic caste. Not all the Brahmins were not Pujari. Many of them must be farmers also. They were called priests, Purohit or Pandit. Brahman was a caste, so there would be people belonging to that caste would do anything. These days, Brahmins are found begging everywhere. Very good. So this completes our chapter 14, Bandhava. So Deepak, yes, your presentation. I understand you're telling me something else. Change your mind.
Yes.
Good.
So,
Keep it to yourself and
yeah, I'll do
know
that.
the speaker.
When I decided that I have to make a presentation, then this thing was in my mind that probably prepare something in the English given by Buddha. So I searched around and I prepared.
There's actually a book on this topic.
Okay.
Similes of Buddha.
Okay.
Take a book available. Hacker, German. What's German?
And more people who have similar interests.
So Ajahn Chah's
Yeah. Sometimes also.
similes, or he has given in his stories or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, Buddha's similes are very powerful. Shows such similes which convey the meaning in a very deep manner.
You have to connect.
Connect with the
Done? Presentation very easy.
Very easy.
So I was myself surprised when I saw that book, this big book. Similes of Buddha. And written 100 years ago.
This I am very interested in, not only Buddha but overall even Indian tradition has strong metaphors everywhere. So I keep not collecting exactly but sort of trying to understand them. So this is interesting.
The only difficulty I found is that if you stretch it too far, then you can get into confusion.
Yeah.
It's seen only as far as the speaker has mentioned. Because when sometimes people try to take it literally and think that it should be interpreted in all its entirety.
So teaching so many. So I'll start with introduction. So the way I'll probably be doing is that I'll read the whole simile itself and the message which Buddha conveys, and then we can discuss the simile and if there's a point to discuss about. So opening is this just quote from Ajahn Chah, which I found and I've copied here. That Dhamma is just like this, talking in similes, because Dhamma doesn't have anything. It isn't round, doesn't have any corners. There's no way to get acquainted with it except through comparison like this. If you understand this, you understand the Dhamma. And I myself, when I read this similes, it's very easy to grasp the concept or understand what does it mean by looking at the simile. And most of the time these similes are from our day-to-day activities. So, and we are familiar how we react to day-to-day activities or how those events turn out in those day-to-day activities. So, relating them becomes very easy. And one of the good things I found, slide number 2, one of the good things I found while searching for these similes and reading those similes was that, so one could appreciate Buddha more in terms of that he was a human, he was probably more like us who used to think and see various phenomena. But the different way the difference the Buddha had was that what kind of perception it had. So the same kind of events he saw all around himself, but that always inspired him probably to welfare of others, to point out that try to see that event in different light rather than the vast majority. And then he used those events to make similarities with Dhamma and has guided his followers, the monks and the lay persons which have come in contact with Buddha. And overall, the symbols are very simple, easy to relate with, and very beautiful to read. Gives the there's this seeing the symbols, one gets to know. Yeah, I think. Okay. Some of the concepts which I've tried to cover in similes are related with birth and death, karma, the speech, what kind of speech a person should have, and what Buddha teaches about fame to his disciples. And then Buddha tries to teach who is a foolish person, what is a good conduct. And then whole of the teaching also is also given by symbols when Buddha talks about the perception of unattractiveness, or he talks about the I or the aggregates, and he takes it to understanding what is mindfulness through this concept of symbols. So without wasting time, I'll start with the first simile. The simile is from Chigala Sutta, and the topic of the simile is the rarity of human birth. And I think birth and death are the two concepts which Buddha mentions, that the birth itself as a human is rare and the life is passing away very quickly. And Buddha wants to give us a sense of urgency that now we are in this human birth, we should not waste our time and follow the path of Dhamma. And this first simile I'll just read out. Suppose that the great earth was totally covered with water, and a man were to toss a yoke with a single hole there. So yoke is probably you can say a collar, which
like a tire.
Or a tire. Yeah. So, something round. And tradition, I think yoke is used for this ox in the cart, I think. So suppose the earth was totally covered with water, and a man were to toss a yoke with a single hole there. A wind from the east would push it in the west, and a wind from the west would push it east. A wind from north would push it south, and a wind from south would push it north. And suppose a blind sea turtle were there, it would come to surface once every 100 years. Now, what do you think? Would that the blind turtle coming to the surface once every 100 years stick his neck into the yolk with a single hole? It would be a sheer coincidence. So, so the example essentially illustrates that getting a birth as a human is very rare and probably mere coincidence. And then Buddha continues further. It's likewise a sheer coincidence that one obtains the human state. It's likewise a sheer coincidence that
He also gives in long discourses or even intended courses, long discourses, long courses in this instance.
okay. So I'll read again.
See how difficult has it been made. The turtle itself is blind and just one hole in the tire, and then you have to think he can get out.
Yeah.
And then it comes about once in 100 years.
So you can calculate the probability.
Yeah. So actually, that's the beauty by which you
People
try.
will understand. How mushkil hai.
What was clear. Yeah. And then ultimately, Buddha concludes here that this is your duty. Therefore, your duty is contemplation.
Yes, no, just as it is, you're born as a human being, वो बहुत मुश्किल था. Then you come in contact with a teacher like enlightened teacher, वो भी बहुत impossible situation. अब दोनों possible हो गए हैं तो अब तो सुधर जाओ. That is the point. Very powerful way of teaching. Good teacher होगा.
Okay. So I'll move over to the next.
The award will be very happy.
I hope somebody someday doesn't say let us give Bharat Ratna.
Exactly. ये होगा सर.
उस बात है. मारपीट हो जाएगी.
So next assembly is this is it's about the brevity of life, and this is from the Sutta Arcana Nussani Sutta. And a lot of small examples have been given in this sutta, and again these are the common day-to-day experiences and relating them to that how short is one's lifespan. And the first example is of a dewdrop. Just as a dewdrop on the tip of a blade of a grass quickly vanishes with the rising of the sun and does not stay long. In the same way, Brahmans, the life of human being is like a dewdrop, limited, trifling, of much stress and many despairs. One should touch this truth like a sage, do what is skillful, follow the holy life, and for one who is born, there is no freedom from death. And eventually, just wants to bring in the urgency that death is coming and life will just pass away. And there are other examples in this sutta. The next example is that just as a line drawn in the water with a stick quickly vanishes and does not stay long, in the same way, Brahmans, the life of human being is like a line drawn in water with a stick. Another example is just as a sliver of meat thrown in an iron pan, heated all day, quickly vanishes and does not stay long. In the same way, Brahmans, the life of human being is like a sliver of meat. Another example I'll read out is, just as when the rain devas send rain in fat drops and a bubble of water quickly vanishes and does not stay long, in the same way Brahmans, the life of human being is like a water bubble. And then again this continues. And the last point here is that just as river flowing down from mountains, going far, its current swift, carrying everything with it, so that there is not a moment, an instance is second where it stands still, but instead it goes and rushes and flows in the same way. Brahmans, the life of human being is like a river flowing down from the mountains. And again, very simple day-to-day experiences, and one can quickly relate to what Buddha wants us to point out. Is like time is passing away, and possibly don't waste time and work towards one's own freedom. I'll move over to the next simile, and the next two similes are related with karma, and karma has been again very important concept. Karma or karma. And essentially, the Buddha wants to give the message here is that whatever action one does, he'll be responsible for its consequences. Whether one does the good actions or bad actions, the results will be again the good or bad. And this is also explained through an example. I'll read out the simile. Suppose a man were to throw a large boulder, probably a big rock, into a deep lake of water, and a great crowd of people gathering and congregating would pray, praise and circumambulate with their hands palm to palm over their heart, saying, "Rise up, O boulder, come floating up, O boulder, come float to the shore, O boulder." What do you think? Would that boulder, because of the prayers, praise and circumambulation of the great crowd of people, rise up, come floating up, or come float to the shore? And the monks reply, "No, Lord." And the Buddha continues, "So it is with any man who takes life, steals, indulges in illicit sex, is a liar, or who speaks with divisive speech, harsh speech, and idle chatter, is greedy, bears thoughts of ill will, and holds to wrong views. Even though a great crowd of people gathering and congregating would pray, praise, and circumambulate with their hands palm to palm over their heart, saying, 'May this man at the breakup of the body after death reappear in good destination, the heavenly world,' still at the breakup of the body after death, he would reappear in destitution, a bad destination, the lower realms of hell." And essentially the message is very simple, that if you do bad, one is just time for hell and not heaven. And I'll go toward the next simile, and again this is a common experience. Just as when seeds are not broken nor rotten, damaged by not damaged by wind and heat, capable of sprouting, well buried, planted in well prepared soil, and the rain god would offer good streams of rain. Those seeds thus come out to growth and increase and abundance. In the same way, any action performed with greed, performed with aversion, performed with delusion, born of delusion, caused by delusion, originating from delusion, wherever one's selfhood turns up, that's the action will, there that action will ripen. Where that action ripens, there one will experience its fruits either in this very life that has arisen or the further along in the sequence. So essentially Buddha is including the future rebirth, where he's saying that one still can't escape from the actions one has done. Okay, any question?
The word is used, born of delusion, caused by delusion, originating from delusion. Wherever one's selfhood turns up. So even if you do a noble deeds with selfhood, you'll keep on experiencing its fruits in forms of good life, but then it will still remain here only.
Yeah. Okay. And next sutta is about the speech, and speech also has been an important aspect where it's very easy that one can lose control in a speech and either say things which are not good or be angry. And it's been big importance that one should control what one is saying to others. And I'll read out that simply. Suppose that a man were to come along carrying a burning grass torch and saying, with this burning grass torch, I will heat up the river Ganges and make it boil. Now what do you think? Would he, with the burning grass torch, heat up the river Ganges and make it boil? Okay, this Sudhakar is having issues.
Raman, can you hear?
Raman, are you able to hear us? Silesh? Sudhakar?
Silesh, Sudhakar and Raman.
So, Silesh, the audio is fine from yours. You are able to listen properly? Okay. Sudhakar, you may want to restart the session. Sorry.
Gone for a 45 days. Come back.
Just mail. Come back and mail us 45 days. Sudhakar.
The older one, Goenka ji uses in a different way.
There's this
Ghada
man
and
elaborate ritual. एक घड़ा लो, उसमें घी डालो, दूसरे घड़े में पत्थर डालो.
That also is there in Mali.
So Silesh has a question. If karma is a mechanistic, as it implies, what is the role of metta?
Rule of our action is there. No? Kafka, this karma basically means the kind of conditions which one is faced with. What one does with these conditions is our present wisdom involved.
Yeah.
See, the Ajahn Brahm in his stories gives a very good example of it. That suppose there is a woman and she has very poor quality of flour and poor quality of butter and all the ingredients of a cake, and another person has extremely good ingredients of a cake. It does not necessarily mean that the one who will get a better cake is not dependent on the ingredients alone. It depends on the ability to use those conditions properly. So karma is not mechanistic entirely. It is in the sense that the actions which we do, they have their effect. But we can modulate them by different practices in the present time.
Yes.
So this karma, normally people think of it as a fatalistic doctrine. Actually, you can change the outcome by, they only determine the conditions, not the outcome.
Okay. So in this assembly, essentially the first part is that with a small burning glass, you cannot actually boil the Ganges, because the Ganges is like deep and enormous. And how it is equated is that there are 5 aspects of speech by which others may address you: timely or untimely, true or false, affectionate or harsh, beneficial or unbeneficial, what a mind of goodwill, with a mind of goodwill or with inner hate. Okay, so and essentially what Buddha says that in any event we should train ourselves that our mind will be unaffected and will say no good evil words. We will remain sympathetic to the person's welfare with a mind of a goodwill, with no inner hate. We will keep pervading him with an awareness imbued with goodwill and beginning with him. We keep pervading the all-encompassing world with the awareness imbued with the goodwill equal to the river Ganges. And so, and this actually, so it's very important in the concept that either somebody is saying us the harsh words, or we are saying harsh words in reaction. Both needs to be restrained as an action. Okay, and so the next sutta, next assembly is for the perils of the fame. Have you heard the jackal howling in the last hours of the night? Yes, Lord. That jackal is suffering from manage. Probably management is probably some depression. He finds no pleasure whether he goes to a bluff, to the foot of a tree, or to an open air. Wherever he goes, wherever he stands, wherever he sits, wherever he lies down, he is sunk in misery. In the same way, there is a case where a certain monk is conquered by gains, offerings and fames, his mind consumed. He finds no pleasure whether he goes to an empty dwelling, to the foot of a tree, or to the open air. Wherever he goes, wherever he stands, wherever he sits, wherever he lies down, he is sunk in misery. That's how cruel gains and offerings and fames are, a harsh, bitter obstacle to the attainment of the unexcelled rest from bondage. And this essentially is very important for the monks because
For all of us. For all of us.
all
You
of
may get fame in other way.
Yeah.
Monk may get fame in some way and we may get it in another way and then get lost in it.
yeah. But
Especially for lay teachers, it is very important.
I actually mentioned monks in the sense that like we have seen in India, right? There are a lot of sadhu sants.
I can see. As I said, recent phenomena. I think.
Recent phenomena, we can see that
Even in the past it has happened.
in the past. So there is small fame, they get a following, they come on the TV, and it becomes very catchy, and probably they're not able to grow beyond that.
Yeah,
And-
it becomes a big bottle.
Big bottleneck. And if we look at the path shown by Buddha to the monks, the path essentially is to leave everything aside, just have the 3 set of robes and very minimal things for day-to-day use. And with that minimalistic setup, if monks get attached to the frames, and actually one will really get stuck there. So it becomes actually more important for the monks, at least, essentially. It's very easy to get trapped there and not make progress. And obviously, maybe important in our life also.
All meditators, everybody is
Yes.
trying to do self-improvement. There is this problem,
Yeah.
very serious problem. Because if you success in a little bit, then you can easily get into that problem.
Yeah.
Taking things personally.
Yeah. Yeah. So the next story is very beautiful. So very beautifully Buddha tries to explain.
Turtle. In fact, one of these which आपने छोड़ा था ना वो ककट चुपमा सुत्ता उसमें तो बहुत सारी सिमिलीज हैं. You just took one of them. एक्चुअली मैंने देखा था ना तो उसका टाइटल का ककच्च होता है 100 तो उपमा मीन्स सिमिली सो ककच्च उपमा सुत्ता में सिमिली ऑफ 100 तो मैंने कहा कुछ सिमिली 100 वाली तो आई नहीं. But of course this is also there are many similes in that. It's a very powerful, बहुत famous sutta, among the famous suttas you find this ककच्च उपमा. It is full of similes and similes. Similarly this Komma Sutta is very famous. It's also a part of Jatak Katha
Okay.
used for teaching children.
Okay. So I'll just read out the story. Once monks, a large family of turtles had lived for a long time in a certain freshwater lake. Then one turtle said to another, "My dear turtle, don't go to that area." But the turtle went to that area, and because of a hunter lanced him with a harpoon. So he went back to the first turtle. The first turtle saw him coming from afar, and on seeing him, said to him, "I hope, dear turtle, that you didn't go to that area." And the turtle replied, "I went to that area, dear turtle. Then I hope that you didn't get wounded or hurt." And he replied, "I haven't been wounded or hurt, but there's this cord that keeps dragging around behind me." "Yes, dear turtle, you're wounded, you're hurt. It's because of that cord that your father and your grandfather fell in misfortune and disaster. Now go, dear turtle, you're no longer one of us." The hunter monks stand for Mara, the evil one. The harpoon stands for gains and offerings and fame. And the cord stands for delight and passion. Any monk who relishes and revels in gains and offerings and fame that have arisen is called a monk lanced by the harpoon, who has fallen into misfortune and disaster. The evil one can do with him as he will. That's how cruel gains, offering and fame are a harsh, bitter obstacle to the attainment of the unexcelled rest from bondage. So another interesting thing is that in the story, the turtle doesn't know that he is
Getting
in
hurt.
The, the story which I have mentioned is different, it's not exactly. It is also with turtles.
Yeah. There is, I think, one more story I have put.
Very good story. The person is not even aware that he is that. Very interesting.
Turtle is a good metaphor for a shell which is hard.
Yes.
आपको पता ही नहीं चलता.
हिंदी में बोलते हैं तो ज़्यादा क्लियर हो जाता है.
हाँ.
मोटी खा लो. Then it becomes clear.
पुलिस पर्सन तो आना ही था अभी तक, है ना? These are the foolish studies going on. Buddha going to foolish person.
So actually, the Buddha talks about ignorance, foolish person. So, suppose the monks, that is sheep of barley, sheep probably a big bunch, sheep of barley were thrown down at a large four-way intersection, and 6 men will come along with the flails in their hand, and they would thrash the sheep of barley with their 6 flails. Thus the sheep of barley would be thoroughly thrashed with the 6 flails. Then a 7th man would come along with a flail in his hand. He would thrash the sheep of barley with a 7th flail. Thus the sheep of barley would be even more thoroughly thrashed with the 7th flail. In the same way, the uninstructed run-of-the-mill person is thrashed in eye by charming and pleasurable forms, thrashed in ear by charming and pleasurable sounds, nose with pleasurable aroma, tongue with pleasurable flavors, and body by charming and pleasurable tactile sensations, and in intellect by the charming, pleasurable ideas. And so in Buddha's teaching, this has also been a great importance given to this pleasure or desire arising out of these 6 contacts or indriya. And the message has been very clear to restrain oneself from them to make any progress. And that's the message here also.
One important difference I will point out. Normally in all the other traditions talk of 5 senses.
Yes.
Buddha talks of 6, mind also.
And it says that the
Even
6th one is more bigger.
Even charming and pleasurable ideas are treated at the same par with other things.
I think, Professor,
Which brings out a very powerful change from the rest of the teaching. Because normally people tend to think very highly of metaphysical theories and speculations
and taking pride in the intellect
and
and
intellectual
the,
abilities and visualizing new innovative thoughts and all that. So finding out that also is keeping you within the same.
same. So actually, in the assembly, it starts with the 6 persons, and then when the 7th person comes. And the way it has been given is that the seventh person probably is a special one, which does the more fine grain. And the seventh here refers to the intellect, that one gets stuck at the level of intellect and
No,
thinking.
this is not seventh.
Intention.
Seventh is the intention
Sorry.
to become
Yeah.
something in the future.
Yeah.
आगे और हमको अभी तो मैं CEO नहीं बना हूँ तो CEO बन के दिखाऊँ. Next life will become a CEO. So you further becoming in the future.
Yes.
You want to become a great teacher, great painter, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. So this is about the virtuous conduct.
This is actually about economics.
Yes. Economic in the sense that. So the example is of a weighing scale. Just as when a wearer or his apprentice, when holding the scale, knows that it has tipped down so much or has tipped up so much. In the same way, layperson knowing the income and outflow of his wealth maintains a livelihood in tune, neither a spendthrift nor a penny pincher, thinking, will my income exceed my outflow, and my outflow will not exceed my income. So, virtuous conduct for more layperson. And so, and then it gives a further example that if a layperson has a small income but maintains a grand livelihood, it will be rumored to him that his clansman devours his wealth like a fruit tree eater. If a layperson has a large income but maintains a miserable livelihood, it will be rumored of him that a clansman will die of starvation. But when a layperson, knowing the income and the outflow of his wealth, maintains a livelihood in tune, neither as a spendthrift nor a penny pincher, thinking, thus will my income exceed my outflow, and my outflow will not exceed my income. This is called maintaining one's livelihood in tune.
Thinking that.
So, probably in those days also there were cases where people were actually
Either misers or spendthrifts.
but essentially this sutta gives the teaching that if one has probably money which is earned from the right way, so there is no problem in spending that money on luxuries till the time one is probably
Luxuries or not, that I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't say
So
luxuries.
he says spending it in the right way. There are other discourses where householders, I think we had studied it, no? Segalo, others, we've studied it.
if it's if one is a lay person and
Points out that a certain percentage should be laid aside for,
yeah
otherwise you can do it
yeah
for enjoying the wealth. That is not banned in.
that is not there.
So, but what do you call luxury?
No,
It depends.
I don't know. I'm saying
said
that
that-
no, I said here he did not say luxury. That's the only thing I pointed out.
I think till the time if you're not harming others and you are helping society, you are helping other people, and you have not earned the money in the wrong way, it may be fine. But as the next step, eventually probably one can give away the luxuries and try to live more simple life. That probably will be the next step for the lay persons. Okay. So this is the next one. Again with virtuous conduct. Just as if there was a great reservoir with 4 inlets and 4 drains, and a man were to close the inlets and open the drains, and the sky were not to pour down proper showers, the depletion of the great reservoirs could be expected and not its increase. In the same way, there are 4 drains on one's store of wealth: debauchery in sex, debauchery in drink, debauchery in gambling, and evil friendship, evil companionship, and evil camaraderie. This just another way Buddha want to restrain people morality and tell people to be more moral. Okay. So the next simile is of perception of attractiveness, and many of us as a kids would have done this or would have actually seen this at least on at least in North India on 13th January when we have this Lodi function, and when we lit a fire and we throw popcorns. We may have seen that probably a light object like a feather or a small piece of paper, if you throw in the fire, actually because of the smoke coming out, it will actually repel and come out and not actually go in the fire and burn. So Buddha has used that as a simile to explain. Just as a cock's feather is because of something that is very light. Just as a cock's feather or a piece of tendon, when thrown into a fire, shrinks away, bends away, pulls back, and is not drawn in. In the same way, when a monk's awareness often remains steeped in perception of unattractive, his mind shrink away from the complexion, from the completion of sexual act, bends away, pulls back, and is not drawn in, and either equanimity or loathing takes a stance.
तुलसी वाली चाय
So essentially Buddha is saying here is that if we maintain the perception of attractiveness, then we are very easily able to repel or drawn back from the certain things. And eventually probably will be more mindful. That's the message we have in this simile. Okay. So I'll move over to the next one. And the next one when I read,
dangerous.
it was very dangerous. I couldn't actually. I actually had to read it again, but and then
you said decided to put it.
Yeah. Actually,
You need to read it.
so
He's basically trying to tell us that the food should be eaten for the purpose of maintaining the body, not for enjoyment. Now, example uses too strident.
yeah,
For
but
householders to take care. It is better that monks can read it. I think householders will unnecessarily get repelled by reading.
so but one can still connect with the beauty in the sense that most of the time in our life we are so connected with food that we eat food which is tasty, and
It is eaten for that idea of taste and
Yeah.
not for the fact that it supports the body. It may not actually support the body.
Yeah.
It may harm the body,
Yeah.
but still we take it.
Yeah. Yeah. Still we take it and still we're attached to it. And
The other way to look at it is that whatever we eat is like it's a small plant or it's actually a small animal, right? So there is compassion towards those things also that we eat. So you will
Yeah.
eat with.
yes.
So that's a lighter way of putting it.
This example is often seen as a very strident example.
Okay.
If you take it literally, then it warrants a lot of criticism.
Yeah. Yeah. So the idea is essentially not to get stuck with the example, but more with the idea that what is
Regarding food, there is a much better example which is easily digestible. It's the example of a farmer going to his farm, and he says, suppose this farm is very badly made and the farmer's that cart is creaking all the time. Chinchi ऊपर आता है ना, ऊपर नीचे जा रही है. So then he takes and puts some oil onto the wheel, and then the creaking stops so that he can settle peacefully and go and do his journey peacefully. So this this all we know. Now what does he put this oil for? Does he put it for the taste of the wheel or for the because of its color or because of its odor or smell? No, it is for reducing the creaking. So similarly, you should take the food so that the body does not creak and you can do what it wants to be done. It's a very powerful analogy. I don't know where it is, but for the food I always prefer that to this. For householders it becomes repulsive to eat it.
Yeah, it becomes. But if we look at the way monks have to live, they have to like take one diet in a day, and that is more for sustenance purposes, and that's the essential idea that food is only for surviving. Okay. The next one is regarding the ignorance. Mother Nadia, it's just as if there were a blind man blind from birth who couldn't see black objects, white, blue, yellow, red, pink objects, who couldn't see or who couldn't see even or uneven places, the stars, the sun, the moon. He would hear a man with a good eyesight saying, "How wonderful good sir is a white cloth, beautiful, spotless and clean." He would go in search of something white. Then another man would fool him with a grimy, oil-stained rag. He is a good man, he is a white cloth, beautiful, spotless and clean. The blind man will take it and put it on. Having put it on, gratified, he would exclaim words of gratification. "How wonderful, good sir, is a white cloth, beautiful, spotless and clean." Now what do you think, Maganadiya? When the man's blind from birth took the grimy oil-stained rag and put it on, and having put it on, gratified and exclaimed words of gratification, how wonderful is a white cloth, beautiful and spotless. Does he go knowing and seeing, or out of faith in the man with a good eyesight? And replies, of course, he did not know, not knowing and not seeing Master Gautama, but out of the faith in the man with a good eyesight. In the same way, Maganadiya, the wanderer of the sects are blind and eyeless, without knowing the freedom from disease, without seeing unabiding. They speak this verse. Freedom from disease, the foremost, good fortune, unbinding, the foremost is. And the message essentially here is that if one doesn't know the truth and still get attached to it. So probably it's more when ignorance, and that's where the Buddha message comes around, and he says that we need to do investigations and find out for yourself.
Basically, don't accept anything on faith.
Don't accept anything in the faith.
See it. See it means directly experience it.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a घड़ी डिटर्जेंट का ad sir which says पहले इस्तेमाल करें फिर विश्वास करें. I couldn't resist it.
Yeah.
Sir, please.
Okay.
But that's a good thing, isn't it?
Okay. So the next symbol is restraint, and it's like suppose there were a beverage in a bronze cup, consummate in its color, smell, and flavor, but mixed with poison. And suppose a man were to come along wanting to live, not wanting to die, desiring pleasure and abhorring pain. What do you think, Sunakatha? Would he drink the beverage in the bronze cup, knowing that having drunk this, I will incur death or death-like suffering? And the Sunakatha replies, no, Lord. And the Buddha continues, in the same way, when a monk maintaining restraint over the 6 spheres of contact, knowing that acquisition is the root of stress, is free from acquisition, release in total, ending of acquisition, it's not possible that with regard to the acquisition he would state his body or arouse his mind.
When Buddha is giving the simile and he's saying, will he drink it? Till that time he says, no, Lord. Then the monk doesn't know what is coming next. It's like he's prepared. He says, it's a bit obvious, I no, Lord. After that, he suddenly relates to his personal experience. This reminds me of the ox story.
10 ox herding stories. So we can stop at this time.
Yeah.
This Posapada is a very powerful sutta.
Which one, sir?
Posapada sutta जो है ना बहुत सारी सिंधी है. So we can study it next time. Okay? If there are any questions, you can respond to it.
And sir, for both I and Rajesh are planning to go to camp next this coming Wednesday. So please, we'll have to meet in January.
But if you're available, you can come.
I'm also very excited. Okay.
New Year celebration. New Year celebration.
Yeah, but actually I will go to Pune. I don't know if it's Sunday or maybe a little after that, but there is
So we will be on 5th of January. कब से है? इस Wednesday से है?
Yes, sir. This
Third
Wednesday.
Wednesday है?
Yeah.
That is which date? It is
18th.
29th.
So Sudhakar is writing to his right side. If we wanted to, sir, जाने से पहले I was kind of thinking, register तो मैंने करवा दिया था, but I was actually thinking कि in the new understandings that we have got, and I must confess that the understanding that I've got in the last 2 years has been through this process of thinking and contemplating has been a lot more impactful on my life. So I was having this dilemma in my mind whether the structured learning of the practice is important, or should I spend those 10 days with my family? Because there is a shutdown in office.
You have to decide.
But that's the dilemma.
Yeah, you have both ways are true. But you have to see what is the situation and what is the level of awareness. Obviously, both have their merits. Spending time and solitude also has its merits. That's something that आप चीनी लेना चाहें तो ले लीजिए.
His daughter is now old enough. She was, after her birth, this is the first time he is going. So she is now aware. कितनी बड़ी है?
5 years.
She says कि अच्छा आप
तो पिछले 5 साल में नहीं गए? गए तो
So
थे.
10 day camp में नहीं गए. 3 day में 3-4 कर लिए.
यहाँ गए थे ना इधर जम्मू पठान.
तो 3 day में गए.
3 डे में गए थे. ये बिस्किट ट्राई करिए.
ट्राई किए. आप रख दीजिए प्लीज.
नहीं, it's okay.
ले लूँगा.
मैं ले लूँगा.
25 से
हाँ.
कब तक?
First.
ट्राई कर मिडिल पास और क्या है? ट्राई कर मिडिल. तो इसके बाद भी तो जब आओगे 29 के बाद भी तो डे है ना.
3 दिन में.
ये ज़्यादा ही तो महसूस होता है. 1-2 दिन का नहीं. 7 days. Which student you can do? But then make up your mind at the outset, not later. Because you should then inform the teacher that I will be going on this. If it is so heavily telling on you.
तुम्हें सेकंड सिंपली बताई बताइए ब्रेविटी ऑफ लाइफ.
कौन सी?
But sir, is there any question? You can then respond or close it up.
So these are the more questions.
So say thank you. Right, thank you to all. So,
So after double-minded situation is time की when we know कि the dedicated sitting practice, especially in a structured technique form, how important would that be